Inshallah.
3,
All right.
2, 1. Run it. Let's go.
Welcome back, everybody, to Conversations with Christopher Now. Today we have a very special guest, Noor Kabbani. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself a little bit, but
All right. Let's see. About me, I am a competitive powerlifter. I am also a female MMA coach. I coach all women's intro class, and it's like kind of like a boot camp style. I'm also a student of dance. I do contemporary dance for funsies on the side. I graduated with a degree in economics, and my full-time employment is in tech. So I am everywhere.
she's also a social butterfly.
I am.
I've had the pleasure of knowing Noor for the last couple of years, and we've definitely had a lot of interesting conversations and funny personality.
Yes, I'm also funny. This is facts.
We're just having a conversation off cameras
Mm-hmm.
about masculinity, femininity, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd like to continue down that lane. What's your opinion of Andrew Tate and that whole thing?
Tateism.
Tateism. The
tater tots. That's what I call them. So Andrew Tate, for me, like at the end of the day, I always believe that like bad PR is still PR. And I feel like he built a big reputation on himself by being very like obviously like controversial. However, I do believe that when it comes to topics of femininity, aside from some of like the vulgarity that I don't agree with, I think he does make some valid points, and he comes from a more like it's coming from a more like traditional mindset. However, I think I heard something like recently on a podcast where someone was like talking about actually, Andrew Schultz.
Yeah.
So he made a comment where he was
Good
like,
friends with him, actually.
"Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was your mentor." No. He was saying something like, when you step away from like watching the shorts and the clips, and you actually like hear like a full and extensive interview
The full
of him,
message.
Yeah, he does make some valid points, but he was saying that what he's not understanding is that you're trying to adhere not to the men, because most likely this crowd is going to agree with you. You want to convince the women. And then, that's what you want to do.
That's interesting, because usually, obviously, a lot of men are on board, but really the main.
You want to convince the women. So in convincing the women, you have to deliver it. You have to deliver the good parts of your message to adhere to their psychology, because that's who you're trying to win over. You're not trying to win over the men. You need in masculine and feminine dynamics a sense of like harmony and equilibrium. Like no one cannot be like, you can't impose yourself. You know what I mean? You want everyone to agree to play whatever defined roles you want. So there was actually there's a scholar that I really, really like. His name is Dr. Yasser Qadi, and he teaches. He's a genius. He has an Islamic degree. He also has a degree in theology, PhD from Yale. Yeah, and he brought up the conversation. He did like a lecture about Andrew Tate, because obviously it's a big conversation in the Muslim community after like him converting, obviously. And a lot of women feel a type of way, because even though valid points can be made, but at the end of the day, it's like you're picking diamonds out of dirt. At the end of the day, you're picking it out of dirt. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, so do you think there's more diamonds or more dirt? Do you think there's like more mud in the message, or it's like a little bit? This is where
manners and delivery makes the biggest impact, because it's like, even if though it's like it's a big diamond, I still had to go through all this like ish to pick it up. You know what I mean?
But don't you think
it's like
100%? But don't you think like sometimes like you have to say the truth even if it's ugly? And I'm not saying that.
Yeah, but there's a way to deliver it without being so basically, going off what he said, he brought it up because he's like, a lot of the sisters in the community are obviously like upset about this, because a lot of our brothers align with this, because yes, there are some fundamental traditional values that he preaches that do adhere to our traditional philosophy when it comes to gender roles. But he is, and I think he put this so perfectly, he was like, Andrew Tate is a byproduct of severe and censored political correctness. meaning that when a society is like everything is censored, we can't talk about anything, we can't, it creates a sense of extremism because we cannot open the door for like dialogue because everything is offensive, everything will get you canceled, everything. So it's like you shake like a soda can and there's so much,
it's just ready to
it's
explode.
ready like to explode, and then it exploded. And so it comes off, it's like it doesn't, even if you deliver it in the worst way, it's still so like it pulls on so many heartstrings because there has been so much repression of having these conversations.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just like, he is like a symptom of a greater disease.
I fully agree.
You know?
I mean, I don't believe it's a coincidence that he exploded and got so big and so many people are talking about this. I don't believe it's a coincidence. I think it's because society sort of needed that. And we're at a point where like we're not having these conversations.
No.
Like we're at a completely different understanding of what I guess of
I think
opinions,
it's because
maybe?
everything is, you're allowed to say everything goes, but you're not allowed to say some things do not go. Does that make sense? Like in a sense, like it is okay to be open to everything, but there's more backlash in having boundaries and not being okay with like certain things. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So,
But shouldn't we have boundaries?
boundaries are good, but not even just boundaries. So here's the thing. I think, like I said, he makes some valid points, but what Yasser Qadhi was bringing about was he was saying that like severe political correctness creates this environment where like everything is so pent up. When it comes out, it's coming out at 100 miles per hour with no regard to delivery, manner. You know, as an educator, if your goal is to just say something just to say it, you don't care because
Yes.
you're not trying to convince people. But if you're actually trying to make a fundamental change in society as a leader, you have to know how to speak, how to deliver your message, and you have to know your people and your people's psychology in order to be able to adhere to them. That doesn't mean you have to be passive. So like, for example, the example I would say is like, it's like addressing the elephant in the room. Instead of like shying away from the elephant, pretending the elephant does not exist, sometimes it's nice to just be like, okay, ladies and gentlemen, here is the elephant. Once we get that out the way in a respectable manner, then we open the room for dialogue. Because even in like academia, and when you debate in academia, you could be talking about two very polarizing topics, but there's a sense of like direction, manner, and like way that you're allowed to address it, even though what we're saying is so polarizing and different. So I think the issue is that anything that is, if you don't adhere to certain things, it's going to appear as though you're being violent. You know,
fully. And he did come off like that to a lot of people.
Yeah, because like just because you have a different opinion doesn't mean that it's.
I mean, it was like almost like he's ruffling feathers on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, he knew what he was doing because also it's a PR stunt. A lot of people who got to meet him and stuff apparently said that like in person they were like, whoa, this is just an internet personality, but it's harmful because people are not seeing it as like this is what it is when the cameras are on. This is not what it's like with the cameras off, and people are adopting that. I think that we need good, like, how should I say this? The topic of masculinity is important, and I think that it in harmony with femininity, not it being like an othering, but rather it being something that works together and it creates an equilibrium. What you're trying to create is balance, not overpowering.
Not competing. It's a team.
The moon is still out when the sun's out. You just don't see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has its time. There's a way to address these things. And I think first and foremost is like, okay, let's address the elephant in the room. Like, what are the fundamentals? Like, even with topics like interfaith dialogue. Interfaith dialogue sometimes it's funny to me because I feel like we could get more done if we just said, okay, here's the elephant in the room. Like, we have fundamental differences and we cannot shy away from it. And then once we address it, then we can actually have a rational conversation and come to terms in things in a way that we can coexist and not so much you have to agree with me.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like topics like that, I think that, especially him being like a Muslim man now, like manners are a big deal. How you address something sometimes is more important than what you're saying, because manners hold more value. People, you have to understand at the end of the day, if your point is to teach, you have to come correct. You have to know how to address your people. And I think that's the issue that came with this, is that even if there's gems, like you have to really like sit and like bite your fingers to just like sift through that to be able to like really hear the message as a woman, because as a man, you don't care. It's not affecting you, you know? So you can extrapolate the gems from it. But as a woman, like hearing like vulgar terms being used to address women, talking about certain women like celebrities in a very vulgar manner, there's no need for that vulgarity. We could just get to the point and talk about masculinity for the crowd that adheres to that kind of philosophy, without having in a mentorship way, in a way that you are as a leader, and not so much as this like comical internet personality. You know what I mean?
No, it's kind of funny because I noticed a lot of the guys I noticed that were really into, you know, they're Mr. Tay like fans and all that. Tots. Exactly. And I noticed like, and personally, I agree with what a lot of. I mean, I think
there's some things that are valid. I won't shy away from it.
I wouldn't say I'm a super fan. Like, but I noticed a lot of these super fans and a lot of people, it's like they're people that are having a lot of problems with maybe women or their life. They might be a little angry at the situation they're in, and
they're projecting.
Exactly. And it's almost like, you know what I'm talking about. Saying. They're that person that's extremely lacking in those aspects. So they love to hear the whole, you own women, like it's
a power move.
Exactly. And it's like, and I don't think that's necessarily like the answer to it, but personally I think it was a conversation to be had. With that being said, do you think the conversation added more good to the society?
I think it broke some of like the political correctness, which might later on yield a more balanced conversation. But I don't think, I think he lost the most important following that he needed, which was the woman. You need to convince the woman, not the men. You really did need to convince the woman. And for me, and obviously as a woman, I can speak about women community, but something that I've observed, and I'm going to just speak on this as a observer, the communities that I grew up in, having good, men, leaders in your life, figures, mentors, makes the biggest difference, a sense of community. So what I've personally noticed, just as an observation with men are more extrinsically motivated, whereas women can sometimes be more intrinsically motivated, because we're more introspective as creatures, and that's our strength. You know, there's nothing. It's a beautiful strength, and it gives us more intuition and so on and so forth. However, for men, they always say the men's spirit is akin to the sun. You know, what
do you mean?
The woman's spirit is akin to the moon. You know, the idea of duality.
Yes.
You know, so even in Arabic, when you say moon is described in a feminine tense, and sun is described in a masculine tense.
I didn't know that.
And then you have the yin and yang, which is a similar concept, you know, the masc and the femme. But these exist as overarching concepts. Everything has a duality, if that
correct
makes sense. So I've noticed with men is that women can be more intrinsically motivated, because there's not this untamed ego. Women can bend their ego a little bit, in a sense, whereas men are fueled by their ego. And so by being fueled by your ego, you seek validation from, your society, the people around you, because what the ego has to have, there has to be a subject that feels that you don't have an ego when you're by yourself. You know what I mean?
No, fully. I mean,
so what I mean by that is that I've seen that men operate better. Not necessarily when they're, and there's nothing wrong with sitting, talking to your boys, doing venting and all that. But when they're in a crowd of men that they're boys, and they're all working towards a goal together. Do you know what I mean? And they're all seeing each other strive and push and hustle. And that in itself creates that motivation to continue, because you also want to be on top. You don't always have to, I've noticed when there are strong leaders and everyone's heading towards a goal together, you like, it's like when you were taking exams in school, like if you looked over and everyone was going to fail the exam, you felt better. You know what I mean? Or like there's a sense of community, like we're all doing this together. I look over, I'm struggling, but like he's struggling too. We're all on this path to the betterment of ourselves. We want to secure these things, we want to do that. And then you have the elderly, which you respect, that you're not coming at them like, hey, what's up, bro? But they're giving you guidance, and you're seeking from them like what you want to be, what you want to achieve. Wisdom.
Yeah.
And respecting elders, it comes with respecting elders, because nobody respects elders. Like everything in this society, I feel like we are
nobody listens to them.
We're so unhinged, but there's so much wisdom you can extrapolate from the elders. And as boys, you need men, and as girls, you need women. So honor your aunties, and then boys, honor your uncles. And let them set an example for you. And we need strong men that are showing example of masculinity, in the sense that they take care of their families, and they feel a sense of pride in doing that, like a sense of honor, a sense of respect. Like, I take care of the women in my family and in my community. It doesn't just, stop there. And then these boys will look up to them and start following that rubric as a community. And then they all grow up together and they start building that together. You know what I mean? And it goes the other way as well. Like if you're in a group of, as guys, if you're in a group of friends where everyone is just going buck wild, you know what I mean? That's going to be your standard of how you're going to get your social cred or your street cred or whatever you want to call it, like in that group. So if everyone's out here just wilding out, like that's going to be the marker of how you're going to get respect in that group, how you're going to feel your ego. So you're going to continue and elevate in doing all those things,
Yeah.
And so like we have a saying, I mean, I'll say it in Arabic and English, but it's like al-mar'u ala dini khalilih, which means the man or the individual is upon the religion of his companions. And religion not just meaning necessarily just faith. It's like mannerisms and morals and ideologies. You kind of are who your friends are. And that's why the establishment of community, I think, and mentorship is more important to help groom and fashion boys to be men than, just having like personalities like Andrew Tate just kind of like barking into the mic. Whereas who I think is a great example actually of masculinity in a Khabib.
Who?
Khabib.
Oh,
Khabib.
you're talking about the fighter?
Khabib, the fighter. That's yes, of course, Khabib. But no, Khabib is like, because he is like
say it again?
Khabib.
Yeah, you're saying it.
Khabib.
Yeah.
No, but like if you look at him, he is a very principled man. He's disciplined. He can fight.
And he can throw punch.
He can fight. And you know what's funny? It's like sometimes there's so much in like when you're in a place of power and having mercy. Something about that is so like beautiful.
Definitely.
Because he will say like even when he's fighting, he will tell his opponent like, don't make me, because if I kick you, you're done. And then he warns them first, and then he's like, I don't want to kill you, like, but you know what I mean. And he's not like flashy. He's not. He gives back to the community. He's very involved in he takes honor in being a family man. You know what I mean? Honors his parents. He went, the fight where he retired because he promised his dad after his dad passed away that he wasn't gonna like fight anymore. That had everyone in tears. Even if you don't, what's crazy about him? This is how you know he's such a man, because even if you are watching his fight and you're rooting for his opponent, you're still like, man, but you gotta respect him.
Definitely.
And that's, I think, what it is, because he's so principled, he's so mannered. Without his manners and mercy does not take away from like the aspects of his masculinity that makes you feel like respect him, feel safe, and like, you know what I mean?
Definitely.
And I think he's a great example, because there's an aspect of masculinity that I think with Tateism it's not being taught, and that is part of masculinity is gentlemanness.
Absolutely.
Being a gentleman.
Definitely.
Where did that go? It's
Fully.
not being irate and just waving your finger in the air and saying, I tell it like it is. No, why?
Even like the whole idea of like the strongest man in the room is the most quiet, because it's like in reality you don't have to show power. To if you have that, you
cool,
have it,
calm,
and
collected.
exactly, it makes you calm because you know that you're going to be okay. But you don't have to be the loudest. You don't got to be showing people. You don't have to do none of that. In reality, there's so much more power in being
cool,
reserved. Exactly,
calm. People like, how should I say this? It's like the boy that cried wolf. Like he cried so many times that when he did actually see a wolf, you didn't listen to him anymore. And that's why I say
this is in your neighborhood.
Yes, literally down the street. No, but like for real, like if you yeah, if you speak only when it benefits, people will respect you. Because then when you start to speak, people will turn around and listen to you. But if you're constantly like, like so many internet personalities are like just always voicing like, oh, Joe Budden, you know what I mean? Like just constantly like you have to give your opinion about everything. Sometimes don't give your opinion. It's nice.
It makes it cheaper.
It makes it so much cheaper. Yeah, put some value on your words, and then
opposed to that quiet guy that every time he says something, everybody listens.
Yeah, everyone listens because he's about to spit bars. Like he's about to drop some gems. People respect him. But if you have opinion about every single thing, and like little, especially like topics like celebrities, like how did you feel that she wore that? What is it your business? To me, that's so unmasculine. Like, why do you care? It's
literally a female trait.
It's just like weird. Like, why are you so concerned about like, did you see what she was? Da, 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 da. Like, there's so many more important things to talk about as a man.
It's funny though because like
gossip.
I can't be mad at it in the sense of like if you're being incentivized with money, like if you're getting paid to do that,
yeah,
I can't knock it.
Bad PR is still PR. Like that girl. What's her name? Bad Barbie.
Something like that.
Bad Bobby.
Bad baby.
Or baby. What? I don't. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. So let's essentially. How did she's now what? Like a millionaire or something more?
She made $50 million like last year off OnlyFans.
So what like this personality upon its inception? Where did it come from? It came from her yelling at her mom on Dr. Phil. And it circulating and people being like, this girl needs a beating. You guys your bad PR made her rich. Congratulations. You literally paid her bills. Sometimes when you see things that are not good, even the bad PR you give, you're getting them paid out. So bad PR is still PR. And even Andrew Tate knew like the things that he was going to say, even as vile and controversial, some of the things that he put up that were vile and controversial, they would get attention. They would get circulated because people will talk about it, even if it's a bad way. Can you believe it? You gotta watch that. You gotta watch this. You just added more views. When people want to show me like bad things, I'm like, I don't want to see it. I'm not gonna add that additional, view on that thing. Yeah. That bad PR is still PR. And you made her rich. Now she's a millionaire. Super millionaire. She's literally living life. Like you guys laughed at her and circulated it, but she had the last laugh. She's making more than all y'all. Did you get paid? Nope. Did not get paid.
What do you think needs to happen then in terms of like, for I'd say a healthier relationship between men and women right now? Because there's definitely a dysfunction and a misunderstanding. And personally, like I think a lot of men have gotten a lot weaker and a lot of women's expectations have been a little distorted, or I don't know how to explain that exactly.
I mean, I think a lot of women have stepped into their masculine as a result of not feeling protected by the masculine around them in their society. And there's also like this push to like the what is it, the you can do it war poster, where it depicts like a woman in like a bicep as
when
big
they
as
were
her.
Working or something like that.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, some of these things subliminally teach women that in order for you to get respect, you have to like act or like your male counterpart, meaning like anything you could do, I could do better. When in reality, it's like you don't have to do like there's power in your feminine, and I think the rhetoric needs to change where like, for example, the housewife should not be you shouldn't be patronized for wanting to be a housewife in a sense. Like you are literally raising generations. That's a job. It's literally a full-time job. I call my homegirl. One of my homegirls has 2 kids right now, and may she be blessed, because I see those kids. Like she clocks in before me and she clocks out after me, and she'll laugh. She'll be like, "Noor, you clock out at 5, 6, sometimes 7," but she's like, "I don't clock out until those kids sleep." And kids are funny because they wake up at like 6 a.m. like bugged eyes on the crib, like ready to start the day, while you're like, man, I just want 5 more minutes. And then they wake you up at night, and it's literally a full-time job, and you have to have so much mercy because and so much like, how should I say this, you mentally as well, because it's not about you. Those kids will feel if you're sad, and then they'll come up to you, "Mommy, why are you sad?" So you have to be in poker face all day, whatever you're going through, because it'll affect those kids, and you're literally here devoting your entire life to raising these generations, teaching them, and then and you know what I mean, destroying your body and to cultivate the seed. And then we look down at it, and I'm just like, this is probably one of the hardest jobs for anyone. Like, even
And probably one of the most fulfilling.
it's the most fulfilling because, you know, at the end of the day, your boss, you working for corporate America, like, don't get it twisted. I'm so grateful for my day job, but nonetheless, like, you know, those kids actually love you. If something happened to you, they're investing in you. They'll pray for you. They'll take care of you. You know, it's not like where you're replaceable. You are irreplaceable in their eyes. So there is fulfillment in that, because the reward is that those kids actually will love you unconditionally. They really do. Whereas your boss, like, if they need to do budget cuts in December, you're out. You're not valued.
No.
You're not.
You're just a number.
You're literally just a number.
Do you think we're past... Okay, there's definitely no going back to, like, traditional roles. Like, people, like, women work now. Like, women have so many more rights that they didn't have before, and we wouldn't want to go back to that, right? Nobody would, I think.
Mm-mm.
But do you think it's kind of like we're past the point of no return in terms of, like, balance between genders? Because it almost seems like that. Like, it seems like every day more and more we're getting, like, more dysfunction, and like, I see less relationships, and on top of that, less relationships that work, less happy relationships, like, less families, smaller families, less kids.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also a byproduct of, like, our economic system and so there's a lot to unpack actually there. So even historically speaking, it was more so like European societies where women were heavily oppressed. If you look at older certain African societies, and also where the post-Islamic era in Arab countries, women actually were very comfortable, had rights, and could be businesswomen. So this didn't exist as much in certain Eastern cultures, even historically. And you had like matriarchal societies where, women, they had control, but not in the way that, like, overpowered men. You know what I mean?
Not in the way it's portrayed.
Yeah,
today.
like when people talk about matriarchy, they always assume like the woman was like,
Boss
no, actually
woman.
the woman was working in harmony with the man. It's just relative to the society around her where they had no rights. This was considered like, wow, like,
Definitely.
So this is not a foreign concept for us in the sense, in a lot of parts of like the East, but they don't teach you that in school. That's not like mainstream history. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Instead, you're kind of fed this narrative of like extreme oppression and whatnot.
Because that's what happened. I mean, the Romans genuinely sat and debated in their philosophical circles whether women had complete brains or if they were animals or not. And this was the actual, I think the Greeks also believed that you could not, you could only procreate with a woman, but you could only make love to a man.
Whoa.
Yeah, because women were not like objects of like romance. Like that's an emotion that's far beyond because they're not like human.
That's so.
These are philosophers. Like we talk about Socrates, Aristotle, and all that. Like these are like, you know what I mean? But nonetheless, your question was like how we can create that balance. Here's the thing, like society is ever evolving, and I don't think that there's always like a cookie cutter, one size fits all to anything, and that there should be room for things to adapt. So what I think when we talk about gender dynamics, it should adapt to society's innovation and so far, or what have you. It's like building a house. At the end of the day, like you need 4 pillars. Okay, the house needs to be able to stand, but how you fashion and furnish that house can change, and it can change from different societies. Like, you know what I mean? But we need 4 pillars. You know what I mean? We need non-negotiables. We need things that are like consecrated, and how each society wants to decorate their home, adorn it, structure it. That's fine. But the pillars need to be there. Does that make sense?
It does.
And I think that's what the conversation should go towards, is like, what are those pillars? And I think that we need to move away from the idea that women need to be like men, and more so that women are actually powerful in their femininity. Like we need to stop demonizing and patronizing what it means to be women, so women don't feel like they have to enter and step into their masculinity to be respected. Like you should respect women for being women, so that, you know what I mean, they don't have to enter your territory to get some respect.
Definitely.
You know?
But do you think women felt the need to do that because of men or because of other women's validation?
So when, you know, the women's rights movement started in its original phase, these were some valid points. Women were asking for voting rights. They were asking for, like, you know, rights of inheritance. They're asking, and this is in the West because that didn't exist in a lot of some parts of the East, you know. Not that there isn't an issue in that realm, because there, trust me, is. But I'm saying, like, at least here, where it started with valid intentions, like socially, economically, and politically, we should not be debating, like, you know, equality in that. Like things that have to do with like intellect and knowledge and things that are just like these things, that's the
almost basic human rights.
Yeah, like inalienable rights. Women were asking for inalienable rights. That's it. We are humans. Treat us like so. And they also, as a result of the war, entered into the workforce, but weren't being compensated for the labor that they were doing in relative to their male counterpart, even though they were doing the same thing. So the fight was that we are doing the same exact thing and we're not being treated the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we need to fix that. But I don't think everything requires equality. I think what we won't need is to move away so much from like there's socially, economically, politically. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But then like with other aspects, like we should work towards equity and not so much equality.
What do you mean equity?
Like you don't need to be like the man. We need justice. We need fairness, and fairness will look different. Like for example, like if there was a call to like draft for the army,
yeah,
for war, it should be understood that women don't have to be included in that draft forcefully.
Definitely. Because
even biologically, like, you know, anatomically, men are stronger than women in the physical sense, and they should be able to put their body on the line. And, you know, women put their body on the line too. They just do it in their own feminine way. Women put their body on the line when they give birth. Absolutely. Men put your body on the line to fight. So, but you see, the concept is like you're both putting your body on the line. One is just being respected, the other is being patronized.
One is in the masculine way and one is in
the feminine way. But we should also respect the feminine way of doing it. And that's where I think.
But
like,
do you think that lack of respect came from men or from women? Because in my opinion, a lot of what I've noticed is like a lot of women, when they take on masculine traits thinking it's going to make them more attractive to men, when in reality men don't care about these things, right? But that's some and that's some women. Well, what do you mean some men do find those things attractive? Because also, like, if you want to talk about like feminine, masculine, traditional roles, there's a lot of men in this society that are 50-50. Yeah, but a lot. And I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm super traditional, but like, you understand the pillars that you want to, like, you have your pillars. Oh yeah, I don't want to be a stay-at-home dad. Yeah. Like, that's just not what I want. And to be honest with you, in this society, because it's just so many, it's such a mosh posh, like, for me, like, the final, for me, I'm not here to police anyone's lifestyle. Like, whatever works for you, that whatever it is, but you can't patronize people for wanting something more traditional. And I think, like, when it comes to, like, the whole, you know, 50-50 or I'm okay with being a sugar baby. Like, what? Take care of your woman. Yeah. You know, like, what do you mean you're okay with that? Like, no, you should be taking care of your woman. You should. I think that's what it is. Like, finding pride in taking care of your woman, of your families. Or just taking care of business. Like, in reality, that it's taking care of you. And that used to be a flex. And it still is. It's just, I mean, this is where I think, like, men have become maybe a little weaker. Yeah. And, like, I'm not saying it's not a flex anymore. No. And I'm not saying this in the way of, like, okay, I'm the definition of strength. But at the same time, like, a lot of things have just, like, I don't know, they're a little soft now. And I don't necessarily agree with these things. Like, there's no pride in competition. There's no pride in being strong. There's no pride in being, like, a leader.
Yeah.
Where I don't know where these things went left or when it changed, but it doesn't make sense to me.
I think I really do think this goes back to community. Like men don't have, and our society is not okay. So, you know the idea like it takes a village to raise a kid.
Definitely.
We don't have villages anymore.
Fully.
We do not have villages. That's why people don't want to have kids, because back then you could have 10 kids and you're, do you know how many people I grew up with thinking they're my auntie? They're not my auntie. Like, oh, that's my auntie. That's not my auntie biologically, but she's my auntie. And they can come up to me and tell me stories about me as a kid. Like, oh, they'd be like, Noor, you drove me crazy. I was a terrible kid. Like, you used to always da-da-da. But they were with that, like with my mother raising me. So I grew up genuinely thinking like, that's my mom's sister. That's my auntie, but it's not my auntie. You know what I mean? And I think as we lose the village mentality or the village concept, we lose a lot of like teachers, because when you're growing up in the village, they're your teachers.
That's
and as
true.
men and as women, and you see these things working and you see them working in harmony, and then you look up to that and then you breathe that, you know what I mean? But something has to influence you. We are social creatures. You're not a lone wolf that's not being, like, something is influencing you. And it's different when something is influencing you directly and personally versus when it's like something behind a screen. That person doesn't know you. They don't know anything about it. They don't know your mom. They can't come up to you, and you know what I mean? So it's very
They can't just grab you and beat you.
Seriously.
Literally. I mean, because sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah, like that. You know, you need to be a little bit, you know, as a kid, like you got to be chastised in this, but sometimes it's love, because those same aunties that gave me a headache are, man, those are the most solid women in my life. And
because they really just wanted good things.
They genuinely love me. Even though growing up, I was like, oh my God, we got to hide from auntie. Blah, blah, blah. Like, but to be honest with you, you grow up, and that's part of growth and maturity, is like recognizing those elders in your community and how much of a role they played for you and how much they loved you, cared for you, prayed for you, took care of you. You know what I mean? They really looked at you, fed you like you were one of their own. Like, and you learn to appreciate. Here's the thing: as a child, everything, you're gonna be a rebel with no cause. Everything's, you know what I mean. You're gonna be so mad. People, you're gonna feel like everything is unsolicited. Yeah, but as you get older, you appreciate those things, and then you realize like you've adopted some of those traits because you are around it, but it's subconsciously. What you're doing is like you're building the roots, and as I think as kids, like your parents and your community establishes the roots, and then as just being a teenager, you're gonna like kind of you're going to defer away from the roots for a little bit because you're in that like I need to find myself phase. But then what happens is that roots are grounded. They're already in, like they're already rooted in. You come back to your roots, you know, and that was your foundation. Like you may have drifted off, but it doesn't matter because that was it. You were rooted there. And then you start, like, even now when I'm older, you know, me and my mom like butt heads so much, but like my mom's such a strong, smart woman. And I realize like now that I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, I'm a lot like her. You know, you know what I mean? I'm just like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Like I'm her. Like, and even though like she'll be the person that'll piss you off the most, but to be honest, like it's all love. And I realize like what she instilled in me it's far greater than her having been like my BFF Jill, like, you know, growing up.
Yeah.
And even the women around me, like even whatever, they patronize me a little, chastise me, but at the end of the day, like, look who's still here, all of them.
Yeah.
And I think they taught me so much good values, but we don't have that anymore. So you're looking up to internet personalities who know nothing about you. At least when I'm technically the older generation now, and I like working with a lot of kids. I'm very active in my community as well. So like now they're looking up to me, you know what I mean? And I pass that on, and we pass that on, and you know what I mean? And we're all, it's like the village mentality.
A continuous cycle.
It's beautiful.
Isn't it such a trippy thing that like it's a cycle that even you referencing like early childhood, then teenage years, and then once you start realizing like, oh, maybe that they did make some sense. Maybe they did have a point, and you start kind of coming back to those roots.
Yeah.
It's kind of such a trippy cycle that's like, this keeps going on and on. It's like literally everyone just passes on. It's like,
it's beautiful, but when you know what's happening now with so much political correctness, like an unhinged political correctness. You shouldn't. Political correctness doesn't mean you should be rude. You can have manners and be firm on something and express something, just like you do when you debate in academia.
Yes.
But I think because of that, like, there's no space to discipline either. And discipline is important. You need order, structure, rules. Rules are not always terrible. Like, it's not. You cannot just. Everyone cannot be a lone wolf. That's gonna be chaos. You know what I mean? So, I think like us also not. Everyone having so much boundaries, like you can't even overstep even a little bit to instill such fundamental values.
Yeah.
And so everything goes now.
So I don't think there's one answer or one solution.
Facts, I agree.
There's too
I'm just
many
giving
factors.
my own observation when I was growing up.
But from what you believe, like maybe things that we can do, what do you think is the best thing that people our age can do to, I don't know, bring back some of these, I don't want to say ideals, but like
values?
I'd say bring better harmony between the masculine and the feminine and have better families, better relationships. Like,
but that's the thing. We don't value family like that anymore. It's not like, how should I say?
Isn't that a sad thing?
It's so sad. Are you kidding me?
And I don't mean that in like a corny way.
No, I'm so sad. I love
because like
even
like Friends and this, it's like even this like not a real sense of like nobody knows what a real friend is anymore. Everyone's
because we lost community. It really all goes back to this. But I think like for us, man, it's just. So here's the thing. Like, I think we used to we were fashioned to be like a family unit traditionally, in a sense where like boys were raised to be husbands and girls were raised to be wives in a very harmonious way. Like now if you say that, it's like triggering. It's like, that's not my only, like, no, you are a superwoman, you could do anything. But like, you know what I mean? There's something beautiful about that balance. And now it's like, I think boys are just raised to be boyfriends forever and girls are raised to just be girlfriends. Like there's no like, there's no cultivation of the family unit in society. Like, why would it sound appealing? If anything, it sounds like a headache, a loss in so much wealth. If a divorce were to happen, like kids are not like a thing people look forward to anymore. And also I think a big part of it is also wages not matching the cost of living. Because people can't afford it too. People are so scared of like losing financial security that they're like, yeah, we can't even own homes, yet alone like start a family. Oh my God.
But wouldn't you say there's more financial security here in the U.S. compared to other?
So it's so paradoxical because like you can get more wealth, but you could still own a house overseas. And that's kind of like the foundation of family. You can't own I'm sorry, I don't know about you. I'm okay in my career, but like I don't think I can own a house by myself. Maybe like a condo. And if even then it's going to be like at what age could I own that home? Like, or you know what I mean?
How much work, time and
effort
has to go into this?
But back home, whatever that is, whatever, like in different other countries, like you could establish a home. It may not be like the prettiest finishes and stuff like that, but you could build something. But here also it's like it's also a big hustle culture in a sense where like you have to get more, whereas over and like you're in competition, everyone around you is in different places, whereas a lot of times when you go to like different parts of the world, like everyone's in the same kind of tax bracket in that area, and then you step away here and then you could see the gap in wealth. Obviously it's very clear, but you're not competing with them, you know what I mean? So we're kind of all in it together. You don't have to you're not competing, you're just trying to keep maintaining and providing for your family and stuff like that. Whereas here it's like you have to like level up. We
were sold on materialism,
on
the whole like wanting and needing this, and
it's a paradox because over there they might have a lot less, but they can have family. Like we can't have family. It's hard.
It's funny because that's one of my biggest like things that I've noticed. It's like people in other countries, in third world countries, they won't have as much money. They might not be as financially secure, but they still have big families. And they literally still find a way to make sure that everything is okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's fed.
Well,
You
because
figure it out.
there's also multi-generational households, which that's like abolished here. Like we don't have, you have certain cultural communities that do it, which is like everyone stays in the house.
It's
We just
more rare, though.
expand the house, but all the wealth circulates in that house. So it'll be like mom, dad, son will get married. The daughter will come into the house. They will come in. And then they build wealth together. So there's no such thing as like, if you get laid off, you will not have a place to stay. You have brothers that are also like, everything's like always taken care of. Like everyone's going to be safe and secure. And although it comes with its territory, because it's not always so lovely to live with your in-laws. Like it's a lot to acclimate to. Economically, I think it would be more feasible to do that here because everything is so expensive. Whereas you need that security so that you can own something and then you can all build together. But it's so like outside of our culture. It would be so hard to even like, try that. But over there, because there's also a sense of taking care of your parents, there's no such thing as putting your parents in a nursing home. I'm so sorry. What? My mom could be 90. She will beat me time black and blue if I take her in a nursing home. You know what I mean? But so that's why there's the multi-generation, because it's assumed like, duh, my mom's old, she's gonna live with me. Your mom's old, she's coming here. What the heck? You know what I mean? And we
figure it out.
Yeah, but here you don't, and that goes back to not valuing also family as much as either, because think about it, like if your mom kicks you out at 18, how much are you gonna care about her when she's 80? In a sense where like I get it, you know what I mean? Like you were 17 in high school and you had to raise your hand to use the bathroom, but now you're 18, you can do everything. It's like what? And you're out.
It's fun. It's such a thin line because between an 18-year-old becoming 25-year-old, just comfortable in this house doing nothing, and some people do need that extra push. It's like leave. Go figure it out. Go make some money. Learn what it's like to live on your own. But in other aspects, it's very valuable to like
have your family.
Exactly. And keep them in home and grow together. Like,
I don't know. I think it's this magical age that is 18. Like, what, 18? I swear to God, 17, we were like, Miss, can I go to the bathroom? And then now I'm a grown adult. I can take out loans and this. That is insane. You did not prepare. I think you should at some point, like especially as a man, leave the nest, you know what I mean, so that you can learn responsibility, so that you can also like provide for your nest, you know what I mean. Definitely. And you're not coming out of into marriage after being suckled by your mother, you know what I mean. Like you need to be like, all right, it's time. Like, but I think that I think it doesn't have to be 18. I think actually 18 here, like you're in college, assuming maybe, or like you're building your career or whatever it is, the cost of living is so crazy. Like you're not actually going to be able to like cultivate the mentality to get married or do these things, because that's now seen as a luxury. You need to survive. And a lot of times it hinders, I think, your progression, because when you're in survival mode, you're not awarded the luxury of like expansion and growth. You just have to make it. And it's like, and sometimes you'll be making it at the bare minimum. Whereas maybe if you stayed a little bit, you could have came out like comfortable and,
It's funny. That's something that people that never had to survive, they will never get.
Yeah.
Like the fact that like, you just don't get to, and I'm saying like personally, I'm privileged. Like I was born here, but like I see like my parents and other immigrants, it's like they did not have time to like focus on arts and this and music and like think about all these things.
They don't. I just laugh thinking what my mom would say.
To me,
Mom, I'm doing art.
Gym, such a waste of time. Why? And you got to eat more.
Yeah.
And you're spending more money.
What is this?
More food.
My mom hates the gym.
Literally, it's like it's a waste of time. All these things, right?
Yeah.
But we have the luxury of doing that.
Self-development.
Exactly.
Even just marrying for love is such a luxury.
Well,
That is such a luxury for us because like my parents were war babies, you know what I mean? So in a sense, like a lot of people got married even till today. If you go to war torn countries, most of them are getting married for security, for safety, because if you're not like protected by men, you'll get killed, like, you know what I mean, or like raped. And I know that's so grim, but like
we're gonna have to bleep that out.
Yeah. no, but it's grim. It really sucks. It's an unfortunate reality, but we are awarded more privilege of like, because we're not trying to survive, like we can expand and develop and stuff like that.
We have the ability to actually listen to our emotions,
yeah,
and take them seriously.
Oh my God, mental health doesn't
You
exist.
seen that thing? Like I think it's like 50 Cent said, depression is a luxury. It's only people that are privileged have that luxury, and it's real. Because other people, like you just have to focus on surviving, paying bills, on feeding your kids, on this and that.
You don't have the luxury to be sad. I mean, so that would be like my parents' perspective. Like, what do you mean? Like, you can't be depressed because you'll die. Like, you need to like, you literally need to take care of things. You need to, you know what I mean? Like, you have to hustle. Like, and the thing is, I think it's like you're on this adrenaline, and like, you know, you have to survive where everything gets counted. Although I will say it does show up in other ways. Like, my parents will not believe for the life of them that they're anxious, but you call me 700 times to repeat the same thing.
What do you mean, Noor?
Literally, they're like, what do you mean? There's nothing wrong with me. I turned out fine. I'm like, did you? You know what I mean? It worked for them. You know what I mean? It worked for them. But we definitely being awarded more privilege. I don't know. It's weird because it's a blessing and a curse.
It is. I think we've been able to explore some things that are real.
Yeah.
Like, and things that benefit us, like even just the human body, that like benefiting the human mind.
Yeah.
And we're able to add those into our maybe daily functions or whatever you want to call it. And that allow us to live better lives with balance, while also keeping in mind some of these, I don't know what you call it, like views that like our parents had. Because like even that, like you mentioned something that's like such a foreign concept to 99% of people in the US, but like not marrying for love. Everybody here marries for love.
Yeah.
Like you get with somebody, you fall in love, you're this, that, and that's why you want to get married.
Yeah.
People don't marry people because this would be a good partner. This would be a good mother to my children.
Yeah.
She, like, you know what I'm saying? And
I love her.
do you want to go into that?
But you know what's crazy? I am not going to say that I'm against it, because to be honest, like a lot of these households that grew up with their parents not being married out of love, like it was kind of cold, like, you know what I mean? It's like in a sense where and that's why like a lot of them are weird with affection too and stuff like that. And
yeah, well,
you know, because you didn't see your mom hugging your dad, like it would be like, why are you touching me in front of my mom? This is a holy household. Like, you know.
Well, what is love? Because what I've learned from some people, it's something that you create and nurture. It's from trust, from experience together, from responsibility, from all these things. And after a while, like, and I believe it, because even you notice, like, even people at work, people that you're around that you find annoying, if you're around them long enough, you start to like
love them.
Exactly. They start to turn into family.
Yeah.
And then when they're gone,
can't stand you, but I love you.
Exactly. And then when they're gone, you're like,
kind of sad.
Damn. Like, even though he was annoying,
so
like,
annoying.
like, at least he was funny. Like,
yeah.
Now you like
you're present. I mean, I think that's such a human emotion. Like, even if I can't stand you, I love you. Like, I mean, our families. If we got to truly choose our family, we wouldn't have chosen our family. Like, you know what I mean? But we just like love them. There is a sense of in Arabic we call it ishra, which is like time spent, like, or you know what I mean. And that just, you know,
that's a beautiful word.
Yeah, ishra. It's like we have ishra, man. Like, I can't, like, even though we're polar opposites. Like, I have friends that I'm like so opposite from, but like I'm like, man, I have ishra. Like, we were in the sandbox together. I know your mom. She makes me this dish when I, like, you know. So there's that love in a sense of I don't know. I think there's so many
shared experience. Yeah,
it's shared experience. It's them being, you know, unlocking memories. You know what I mean? Because we are sentimental creatures too. So you might naturally just like, that person, if you met them today, you wouldn't click with them, but because you have ishra, like you have that time spent, you know what I mean? That you just love them. I also think that in the purest form, love, like the only true love that I think exists, like unconditional and everything, is a mother's love to her child, you know, because it doesn't matter what, like, and from the jump, they just love you and the mercy they have for you. And you can mess up, you can this, you can cross boundaries, you can do all that. And they just love you.
They'll still do everything
for you. And so, and I don't, I think there's different forms of love that exist, but I think at the root of it, it's mercy. Even if in situations that you might not be merciful to someone else, but because you love them, you have mercy for them. It's mercy. It's encompassing of mercy. It's encompassing of, it's like, how they say, like, love is about compromise. If you truly love someone, when you do that thing that is compromising, it doesn't feel like a compromise.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like,
but you gotta be careful who you do that with.
But it's like, but if it was someone else that you don't really know that much, it would be like such a compromise. Like, you know what I mean? You would expect a tit for a tat. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Whereas when you love someone, it's not a tit for a tat. I just really wanted to do this for you, even though I hate eating at this restaurant. You love it. We're going there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's little things. Sometimes it's big things. Sometimes it's rerouting to, you know what I mean, to keep that person in a sense without, there's a balanced way to do it. You don't always have to lose yourself, but it's worth it because you love them. You know what I mean? I know a lot of kids who took on degrees they would have never done if it wasn't, it's because your parents love you. And even though it was a headache, you did it for them. I know a lot of people who got their degrees just because for their parents. That's a big compromise. That is miserable. You know what I mean? And they did it for their parents out of love.
I couldn't do it.
It's an expensive compromise, and I like my best friend who has 2 kids. Literally, she has her master's. By the way, she's educated, but she's I think the best job she'll ever have is, not ever, because she's very qualified. Is like the most fulfilling is her being this, her stay-at-home mom with her 2 kids. But nonetheless, she did her master's like solely, like for her dad. She literally did her master's, got married, had kids. And I'm proud of her, you know what I mean? But that knowledge will translate, like, to
the kids.
For sure. It's not in vain.
And
you pleased your parents. That's beautiful.
And even in the future, you don't know what could come from that.
For sure. It's not in vain. Nothing, and this is just, specifically for your parents, like anything you do for your parents, it's really not in vain. Out of love, like it's not in vain. I don't think, I think it always comes, you can call it karma or blessings, whatever. It'll always come back in a good way.
I agree.
Anything just for your parents, it'll always come back, because your parents are the people that will piss you off the most, but you literally, you put your head in the dirt, like you bite your tongue and you take it, because they love you to death. If you didn't know they loved you so much, you wouldn't take so much of, the BS.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, my mom will call me just to yell at me. She wants, if I put what she would say, like she's yelling at me, but low key in subtitles, she's saying I love you. She just doesn't know how to say it,
I had an older friend one time tell me, I forgot what it was, but he's like, "Oh, you're gonna have terrible kids."
No.
I said, well, what? Listen, I was like, why? I was like, why you say that? They're like, because you're a terrible son. And I was literally thinking, like, in the sense of like, not in that aspect, but it's like,
karma.
If you were like a difficult kid, you're gonna have difficult kids.
I drove my mother crazy. I drove my mother, my aunties, my teachers, like everyone.
But like at the time, like it just seemed like, I don't know, what else was there to do? Not even in that aspect, but like that's just like the path that you went.
It was just like, first of all, there's a difference between being being disobedient versus being like a vile child.
Oh, fully.
There's like, you have a rebellious stage. Your parents are low-key kind of prepared for it. But then you grow up and they're proud of you. You know what I mean? You become like the coolness of their eye. Where even though you burn their blood.
Exactly.
And like, you know what I mean? Like, I honestly could say, like, for everything I put my mom through, and this is what I mean, it's love, because, oh my God, I would have killed me. She came to the point where like, this was part of your like building your personality and
path,
making you worth, you were my rage, and but at the end you became the coolness of my eye, and you just had to go through that trajectory. But because they have mercy on you, they'll endure it. But then there's kids who genuinely like really just, that's it, they boot their parents, like, and it's like, that's your mom, man. Like, I get there's certain situations where it's valid, like there are some really heinous parents that exist in this world, and at the very least, you don't have to bond with them. You just show them respect and keep it moving, at the end of the day, because your mom still had to push you out, for what it's worth. But this idea of like completely divorcing, like, what?
It's insane.
It's so insane to me.
And it's being completely ungrateful, in my opinion. So
ungrateful.
Considering all the things our parents sacrificed for us to even be here. And we get this from being first generation Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, like, it took me a while to realize it's like the reality of like, oh, how hard life is. And then me moving to a new country, learning a new language.
Oh yeah, you did. That was a big part of your life. You were on a ship.
Well, I'm talking about even our parents.
Oh, our parents.
Our
yeah.
parents doing that. It's like, I can't imagine me like picking up right now, moving, and doing all that.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to give them their flowers. And they did it in the best way they could. Like, yes, it's like jacked up, but like when your mom doesn't tell you she loves you but comes into your room with a bowl of fruits, or your dads do this actually more, he just said I love you. It's in the subtitles. Like, I wish we had subtitles for the things they'll never say but they'll always do.
That's funny. I've noticed, like, we're becoming them.
This is literally what I'm saying. I'm like, oh my God,
sure,
like,
I'm sure, like, to a lot of like young kids, like right now, like in their teenagers and whatnot, we're like old heads.
Oh my God,
we're like,
I'm auntie.
So exactly.
I was shocked. Like when I there was like a couple semesters where I mentored at my mosque, and these kids are literally like they're calling us like auntie, and I'm like, oh my God, we're the aunties. Like, and I'm sitting there like, no, we're cool, dude. Like doing TikTok dances with them. We're like, no, we're not. We're literally ancient. Like, they really look at us like, whoa, we're older than them, and that's a big responsibility. Because I still feel like I'm like 21 sometimes.
I feel like a kid.
Like, I still call my dad for inconveniences. I'm like, oh, mama, my door is stuck. Yes. He's like, did you W4? I'm like, oh, just go do it.
Did you unplug it? Did you plug it back in?
Yeah, like turn off the computer and turn it back on. Literally.
You're crying.
Yeah, I'm like, it worked. You're right.
That's such a trippy thing because, like, as my appearance has grown, I'd say, and I've matured in that aspect, and maybe gotten a little bigger and all these things. It's like I've noticed people look at me more like an adult now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like the tattoos don't help, and in all that aspect. And inside I feel like a kid.
Yeah, same.
Do you think that ever goes away?
What do you mean? I go into my morning meetings at work as like a lead with my cup that says Minoy. You know the SpongeBob? Minoy. It's like that's my morning. I'm like, So per our conversation, I'm just like, it's like stupid. It's so funny. But what was your question?
Do you think like that feeling of like
being a kid?
I don't want to say being a kid because at some point
you have your inner child that will always like live with you.
Yeah, it's more of like, how do you describe that? The inner child, the not knowing, not having things figured out, because I don't think that ever goes away.
It's like the part of us I think that's scared. It's our inner child because you're reaching the point in your life where like, oh, like crap, like, and like you don't have a lifeline, you know what I mean? Whereas when you're a kid, you had a lifeline.
That's a big thing.
You don't have a lifeline. That's where it's like, oh my God, I'm scared. Like a kid in the dark for the first time. Like when you sleep in your big bed by yourself for the first time, like it's so scary. Like that's what it is because you're just trying to navigate. And then eventually like you grow into your big bed and then you are someone's lifeline,
Oof.
You know? Because you lose your lifelines too. Like our parents have the longest life, but still, you know.
It's kind of funny when we were little and no responsibilities, nothing. And like, obviously, like older
You're
people
unemployed
told us,
flying at 2 p.m. Yeah. That was us.
It's still, but it's like at some point, like you just kind of grow past these things.
You know what it is? It's like It's like a death. You don't ever like, it'll always kind of make your heart sink a little, but you learn how to just like move. You know what I say? Because you're always going to be scared. It's always going to be a little scary and stuff like that, but you'll just know how to like, you know how to adjust your stage face, because you have your backstage face and then your front stage, and you'll learn how to just adjust like your front stage, how you present yourself to the world.
Yes.
And in the beginning, when you're like breaking from your, breaking from like that child part of you, you can see like you're a little shaky and nervous, and then you just kind of it's like you fake it till you make it. Literally, that's all it is. You learn how to like poker face and fix your stage face, and present yourself like that to the world. But I don't think you ever kind of, there's certain things that will always, it's like, how like fragrance is one of the most nostalgic things, like it triggers so much nostalgia in your brain.
Yeah.
You'll have moments of like where your child will come out, you know what I mean? Your inner child will come out in certain things, like, and I see it a lot actually with adults when it comes to like humor. You know, like they'd be so serious, but they're so like goofy and dumb that you feel like you see them cackling, and I'm like, that's what you were like as a child. That was your humor. That was, you know what I mean? It's cute. To me, it's so cute. You know, it'd be so stoic, serious, and then you say like something like chicken butt, and they're like, yeah, like what happened to all this? Like, you know? Yeah, but I think it's a part that always it always stays with you, and I think it's the part of you that ignites creativity. I don't think, like, the way we're fashioned as adults, I think we lose our creativity, like, that free-spirited. It's the part of you that's also fearless, too. Like, you know how kids, it's so funny, like, I always use the example of, like, box jumps at the gym.
Yeah.
When you put a kid on a box jump, they'll fall, they'll get back up, they'll do it again, they'll fall. You know what I mean? Like, they're not scared. Whereas an adult, you're like, okay, if I break my back, I can't work.
Now you're thinking about it, yeah.
And then if I can't work, I'm poor. Oh my God, this economy is like I can't afford eggs. And eggs are expensive now. It's like everything. When you're not thinking so much.
You said, if you're eating eggs right now, I know you're
balling.
Yeah.
Literally. I was like, hey, do I need eggs? Like, maybe we should buy a chicken. Like, I think I need a chicken is a better investment. But yeah, I think that it's like, it's the part of you that's fearless, creative, risk-taking, you know what I mean? And it serves some good, but it cannot, there's a certain age where like you also have to like be in your adults, you know what I mean? And once you fulfill your adult, then you can do the things that are creative. It's like kind of like, you know, like what you have going on here, like you have your day job, you have your things, like you have everything structured, and like once you got your adulting together, like you can venture into your creative side and all your creative energy and projects that like fulfill you, and I think it works in harmony, to be honest.
I mean, I fully agree, because even growing up, like I saw some things like creative outlets that I wanted to explore, and me being that like natural rebel at that age, I just wanted to fully dive in that. I said, I don't want to do anything that I don't want to do. Yeah. If it's not something that I absolutely love, not doing it.
And then as an adult, what do you learn? Being responsible is doing that which you don't want to do because you have to do it. And that is discipline.
It is. Well, what I learned is like, okay, like if I want to do this the smart way, I need some stability. Yes. I need something that's going to pay the bills, take care of me, allow me to grow financially, grow as a person, while giving me the opportunity and financial ability to explore some of these creative outlets.
Yeah, you can't be broke exploring creative outlets. No. You know what I mean?
Or you just might live a life.
It will be hard. That's what I'm saying. It'll be
unless you're that lucky.
And it's not fulfilling anymore because it becomes your bread and butter. And when it's your bread and butter, you lose the juice because now you're trying to survive. It brings you back to that cycle.
But that's not something that's preached.
I think it should be discipline. These things are like, for example, like I can dance now. Like I'm a student of dance. Yeah. You think I could have done that? First of all, I couldn't have done that at my parents' house because we don't believe in the arts. How? It's like, but like but like I was, I grinded, got into my day job. You know, my day job, I wouldn't say is like, this is my passion, but I love it because it pays and allows for me to do the creative things that I want to do. So now I'm awarded the privilege of exploring all of my creative side because it wouldn't be cute if I was dancing and broke. Like, let's just face it. Like, I feel like, but it's cool. It's cool when you have these additional hobbies when your life is together.
I'm driving by. And
like, I'm just like, Oh my God. Please slap me. You guys are not my friends if you allow that kind of behavior.
No, but you needed some form of stability
in order to fulfill my creativity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you think we're like we were more creative as people before, or because I see a lot of almost like a lack of creativity. Yes and no. I see a small percentage of people becoming more creative, but a large amount of people becoming like it's like they lack creativity and they don't have like anything where they're expressing themselves, and they're just stuck in this bubble of materialism, of like feeling like buying this brand, buying this, buying that is a definition of their personality, when in reality they're just, in my opinion, wasting their life and their resources.
So I think creative, because I could play devil's advocate on this. I'm not a brandy like material girl, but
Yeah.
for some people, that is an expression of fashion for them, and that's creativity.
And
but it's not my realm.
I fully
It's
agree
not
with
innovative. It's copy, because also art has to be copied too. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so they're
we could go deep into that.
yeah. They need to like
what is it?
Absorb the trends, consume the trends, and you know what I mean?
I think Picasso said, "A good artist copies, a great artist steals." That's what he said. And it's like you're grabbing something and you're doing it with your flavor, with your perspective, with your eye, with, you know what I'm saying? So it's not really.
It's never something new. And this is what I mean. Even like this ties also back to our other conversation where like, you know, as we are social creatures, we influence one another. This is very fundamental to our psychology and who we are. There's no such thing as like the lone wolf. You know what I mean? Everything is a byproduct of something. If I tell you to create a color, what are you going to do? You're going to mix two colors in your head. There's nothing coming out of thin air. You know what I mean? So I think with art, it's so subjective that it's like, Actually, no. I think creativity exists in every single society. I think when you're not awarded the privilege of comfortability and security, you don't always get to explore that creativity. Because I think, like, for example, in countries where like they're surviving and they're, you know, in war-torn countries and stuff like that, or even like historically speaking, like food was an art, you know what I mean? Like,
it is.
Even how soul food was, like the inception of soul food was, it's a form of like, well, it was a form of like surviving, but it was like they took oppression and created a whole entire cuisine. Like, that's resilience. Art is resilience. And to me, that was soul food. The inception of soul food is art, because you literally took like the scraps and everything and created like a whole entire cuisine out of it. You know what I mean? So struggle breeds creativity, which breeds art. Sometimes, you know what I mean? So I don't think it's necessary. I think it happens always subconsciously, because we as naturally as humans are, you know what I mean? We might not call it that. It might not always be like a Picasso painting, but sometimes it's food, like war chants and dances. Like, you know, like for us, we have the debka. Yeah. The debka is played at weddings, but you can, it's also like war dance. People don't know that too.
Where's
like,
this from?
Like, so actually a lot of people everyone has their own rendition. So in the Middle East, like, you know, the one with the foot dance where they're like, da, da, da.
I've probably seen it.
You've seen it. So the Balkans do it too.
Okay.
Like Eastern Europeans do it. Lebanese, Jordanians, Iraqis, Palestinians, and I think that's it for that region. I might be missing a country or two. Syrians do it too. So it's like festivity, but it's also like, it's war too. It's not, you know what I mean? So like it breeds, but you're doing these things as a routine, but you're not realizing you're expressing art. Or like the traditions of marriage, like in certain cultures, that's art.
It is.
These things are art, like the you know what I mean? And sometimes it doesn't always get presented in what we perceive to be art. You know what I mean? It's not always colorful, but it is art. Sometimes it's structured art. Like we're passing it down generationally, but it's art. It's creative. I think, you know what I mean? I think it just looks different with each society, but I don't think we have, maybe it's not a graceful expression of art, if that makes sense.
Like right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because people would, like, when you tell people artists, they're not going to tell you like cuisine. They're not going to tell you. They're going to tell you like poetry, painting, dance, you know what I mean?
Music.
Music. But there's other forms of art that exist.
Yeah, I mean, I heard this one thing one time where somebody was like, everything is art. Because you'll
Everything.
see
It's perspective. That's
exactly.
what it is.
Well, that and even like putting the real creative expression in there. Like somebody said, like a beautiful conversation is art.
Yeah.
You could have a regular conversation that's boring, dull, not genuine, no real creative expression, and that is what it is, right?
Yeah.
It's just a boring conversation. But a beautiful conversation with words that paint pictures, with when
Stories,
exactly when you
illustrations.
feel the energy, when you
Yeah.
feel people, and you know it's genuine, like that's art.
Because art is supposed to ignite feelings. It's supposed to, it's how it makes you feel. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So that's what it is. I mean, like, you know, war dances, war chants make you feel empowered. You know what I mean? Like, your food, you know, traditional values, traditional foods and stuff like that give you a sense of pride. You know, it's
A feeling
feeling.
of home,
Yeah,
a feeling
home.
of love.
Community, family, they all are tied to concepts, you know what I mean, that we understand, but we can experience in the emotional realm, not necessarily in the logical realm.
Do you think, kind of going back to topics we were talking about earlier, do you think we should even be focusing on things like that, of like problems between masculine, feminine, and disharmony in that, or we should just kind of be moving forward and I don't want to say living our best lives, but like continuously improving ourselves? Because sometimes it's almost like when I hear things like that, I debate whether now we should even be thinking about these things. Like, is it important? Like, or is it just something that's...
You know what I think it is? First of all, yes, to each their own. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go up to someone who's like, you know, whatever.
This is the right thing
like,
to
you
believe.
need to, I don't, nothing is cookie cutter, truthfully speaking.
For sure.
Nothing should be cookie cutter. Like, how boring would our world be if everything was such like we were just a homogenous population of everything? Like, it's okay. Like for example, there would be no intellectual debate if there wasn't an opposing view. You know what I mean? So these things sometimes exist in harmony. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's actually, it creates harmony. Differences create harmony. I think that worry about yourself and your community, like what you have reached to. You don't always have to be on the pulpit, if that makes sense. So I think I'm more wary about people who are more eager to be on a pulpit, because you're most likely not ready for the pulpit.
Ooh.
People who are ready for the pulpit are the people that are scared to be on the pulpit, in a sense where like everything I say will influence people. So I need to be very careful on what I, you know, inject into people's minds. They come with a sense of like humility, like scrutiny, and you know, self-awareness of like everything I'm saying right now is going to impact. Whereas people who are too eager for the public, they don't, you know, they're more like it's to hear their own voice. So I think like worrying about yourself and your communities and your family, your people, trust me, there's so many things we have to check our own parents on. Like, start in your home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Start with your home, and then build relationships with people before you start giving unsolicited advice on how to do things. Like, it's different when someone that I'm close to, who can go say hi to my mom and check up on her, knows who my sisters are, comes up to me and gives me advice. I will value that more, because you've established a place in my life. Whereas someone who I don't even know, like, I don't even know you. Who are you? Like, you don't know anything about me. You have the audacity to come. How about you get to know me before you give advice? I think that's the etiquette of advice and teaching, is like also like engaging with your community, knowing who they are, knowing who your people are before you come in and try to be, you know, colonize. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, you know, it's different when you're leading and colonizing. If you know, you know what I mean?
I mean, that's nobody likes unsolicited advice.
No, but you'll take advice, even if it'll make you, you'll be a little butthurt if it's people you know and you love, you know, and
Absolutely.
you built Eshra with them, you built that, you know what I mean? I can hear you because you know me, you know what I mean? Whereas like, I have to introduce myself to you after your unsolicited advice, Mr. that I don't even know, you know? So I don't know. I think worry about your own circle, your own tribe. Like, you have a very full plate. Like, keep your eye there. You don't need to be looking over on someone else's plate until you've figured out what you need to do here. Even when I talk about like problems overseas and stuff like that, yeah, we should have a sense of, awareness and know what's happening. But it would be foolish for me to try to put out a fire 10,000 miles away when there's one in my backyard. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, put out the fire in your backyard, and once everything we're good here, we can move on to like bigger things. You know what I mean? So I think for us, it's like having a sense of awareness, but like take care of the fire, take care of the dirty laundry in your perimeter before you start venturing out and trying to be like, you know what I mean?
Not to get all cliche, but it's kind of funny because these are things that have been said by so many people. Like, I think it's Mahatma Gandhi. He said, the person that could change the world, or don't try to change the world, be the change.
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much power in that. It's like, don't complain about something. Don't try to preach it. Literally, just do it in your house. Become that.
And it'll pass. You have to understand, like,
I don't even know if he said that. I might have completely butchered that. But somebody said that. Somebody famous. But it's like,
it was actually Lil Uzi.
Lil Uzi. That's what it was.
He's Lil Uzi Vert. No, but there's a natural. But there's a natural domino effect that will happen with that. You know what I mean? And people it's like instant gratification. You want to see everything play out all at once, and it's not going to happen. Sometimes you might not be alive to see the change that you've done, that you've impacted. Your son or daughter might grow up to be this amazing leader, fashioned by the ideologies and the things you cultivated in them. You know what I mean? So it's not always instant gratification. You might not always see it. You do the best you can, but the eye, what is it? The eye is the byproduct of the we. You know what I mean? Like, you want to fix the we, fix the I first and foremost. The I is you as the self is more important.
I feel so dumb. You said the
elemental
I.
P.
No, you said the I, and in my head I'm picturing an I.
No.
Yeah,
I
know.
is a byproduct of the we. You
Definitely.
know what I mean? You cannot fix the we until you fix the I.
No, I feel you. I was just thinking in my head. It's kind of funny because like you're mentioning the need for instant gratification. It's like the lack of patience. How we really have no patience. We can't focus. We can't. It's like it's kind of because of social media and technology and all these things that like they've been.
Yeah, I mean, what did they say the average attention span for like the average human is now?
It's like 10 seconds, I think.
Yeah,
30 seconds.
That's crazy.
I mean, think about it. Like, you're scrolling past so many things, and like even adults, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Pinterest, Facebook. Everyone's attention span is literally lowering. And it's
I mean, I think so there's W's and L's with that. The W's is that, you have access to so much more knowledge, but you don't have the attention span to expand on all that knowledge. You know,
even
like we can't read a book. I don't know people that read books anymore.
It's harder.
Yeah, because you have to like sit through it. Like when my generation we read all the Harry Potters. Those books were that book was taller than me. You know what I mean? Like, and then volumes, like it would be like stacked. Like we were the Scholastic kids. Remember the Scholastic book fairs?
Yeah.
I couldn't afford those.
Me neither.
We got the bookmark and the erasers, but nonetheless, like we were the Scholastic kids. Like we read books. We didn't have access to internet, so I don't know. There is a loss in that, and then there's information overload, where you are scrolling and you're watching a video on how to make like butterfly cupcakes, and then it's a massacre, and then it's like pasta, and then it's cat, literally, and it's like our brain cannot handle that. You know what I mean? So I think it also makes us more disconnected from the world and community, and it makes us less empathetic because we're seeing so much, so many like we're seeing such terrible things that our brain is just getting normalized to it. You know what I mean? Oh, someone got shot, I'll repost it. And back to my cat video. And it's so like, it becomes so disingenuous. And I don't think people intend that. I really don't. I think people have really good intentions and they understand. But I think people are starting to understand when they see terrible things in the world, they're understanding it conceptually, but they're no longer feeling it.
Definitely.
Because you know it's bad, and it's like, I need to do something about it. Like, you understand, like, you have a moral compass in your brain, but I don't know how much people's heartstrings are being pulled now.
Or even the idea that, like, a lot of these things have always happened. Like, somewhere in the world, somebody always dies, right? But now you're hearing about all the traumatic events
in one timeline.
Exactly, of the whole world. Whereas before, you would have gotten your immediate circle, your immediate city or whatnot.
Yeah.
And it's like, you hearing this is like, whoa, it happened here, 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 and over here.
Yeah.
Now in your head, there's like, you have this perception that of like, the world's a much scarier place, much more dangerous. When in reality, it was kind of always like that.
It was always terrible, yeah.
But
let's get to it. But yeah, there all these bad things have happened. It's just we have now more access to seeing it. I think another downfall when it comes to like activism is that it's like burnout. You have activism burnout. There's just so much going on. You can't do anything. Whereas I think before, like, you could focus on one problem. Like, you stay in your zip code and you fix the issues within your zip code, and you can rally more people. Like, we can get, I think it's more effective. We get more done because we are we're tunnel visioned into like what's around us, so we can focus on fixing that which is around us.
Yeah, you're becoming the change.
You're becoming the
instead
change
of just crying about it.
Now you have to like you're trying to be when you're trying to be concerned with everything, you'll get nothing done. You know what I mean? Whereas I think there was more effective change when it was like, everyone was tunnel visioned, putting out the fires in their backyards so that there could be less fires. I mean, I don't know. I think it's a slippery slope, but I still do believe that we need to have, people like, putting out some raw. Like, I don't think we should also be so like passive and like,
So I think we could both agree that society needs better examples, better role models, better mentors, all that, right? Mm-hmm. And even just better messages.
Better messages,
right? But compared to what's already being put out on social media, but. Does that mean pretty much some of these people and cultures and the people behind these messages, don't they have to pretty much kind of get on social media and adapt to the modern world?
Yeah, that's why it's like it's a double-ended sword.
Because they don't want to.
It's you have to, because that is the medium of communication now.
Yeah.
Whereas back then you could rally up the people at the town hall and scream, hear ye. Like, you know what I mean? Now then it was like newspapers and, but now you have to like, it's like, honestly, it goes back to like, you have to understand the psychology of your people if you're trying to create change. And that is the medium now. So you have to work with it. I think it's, I don't know. It's just, our brains are not, maybe we will, because, through microevolution, like we might like evolve to be able to like now like maybe compartmentalize and know how to like, I don't know, maybe it could go in a good trajectory, but right now it's too much overload for us. We're not equipped to be able to handle all that all at once. So I think we're losing empathy.
Well, when you say we, you think like the older people above us that have these messages, or us, our generation?
Our generation. I think the older generation still feels, although even the older generation were part of some heinous crimes, you know what I mean? Especially if you're in this country, like, and you grew up generationally here, like I'm first generation, but if you grew up generation here, like depending where you were on the like social spectrum, like it's possible your ancestors or your grandparents were part of something, like heinous, like slavery or, whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the older generation, you could still pull on their heartstrings because they're not as, or actually, I don't know, because they also had such a survival mentality that they tunnel vision into their herd and their community. And they don't really they're just like, this is life. What are you going to do? Like, it is like, whatever, leave it to God. Like we do what we can and we keep it. They have this mentality, well, at least from where I grew up and stuff like that. It's like you tie your camel and then you leave it to God, in a sense where like there's only so much you can do, so not necessarily like we throw our hands up and we're passive, like what can I do, woe is me, but rather like the saying, you tie your camel. It's like you did your part, you made sure it was tied so it wouldn't escape, and then you left it to God. But for you to leave your camel untied and then just be like, where am I? You know what I mean? If you lost your camel at that point, you can at least say like, I did what I could do. What was I supposed to do? Like I tied my camel and we keep it moving. You know what I mean? So I think, I guess maybe us finding a balance. I just don't know what that, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a prescription for that. I don't know what that would look like. I think I'm also like so inundated with information, and I'm a byproduct of that too. Like sometimes when I'm talking, I'm like referencing like TikTok videos and stuff like that. I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's also programmed into me as well. I'm making sounds and ad libs from TikToks I've heard.
This may be biased, but like, because I'm sure every generation feels like they understand a little better. But I think we were in between fully like being in technology and fully like completely not understanding it. So I think we're in the middle of that, and we have the opportunity to like push some of these messages with social media, with technology.
I agree.
Because like a lot of the iPad kids and all that, like they completely missed out on the whole being outside. A lot of the community.
Yeah, they didn't climb trees. That's shocked.
Crazy. That's crazy.
I was a monkey. Like I was climbing everything. I was climbing with my teeth, like my buck teeth, like climbing, like everything. We were dirty. Like we had bruises, blisters. Like we literally sit and compare like scabs. Like you know what I mean. Now I get to go to the gym and compare calluses.
We used to be outside like 12 hours a day.
Literally, you came when the lights went out outside.
Basketball, and then when you got tired, you played soccer. Yeah. And then you switch.
And the ice cream truck. I don't see ice cream trucks.
You know the crazy thing? We didn't even drink water.
No, we did. We were so dehydrated.
We'd run to McDonald's, get a water cup, drink soda.
This generation drinks Fiji. I'm like, Fiji? What? We knew the sink. Like,
I still do that. Yeah. I don't care. I'm not too bougie for that.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's so different. It's so crazy. We had floppy disks. Remember that? I was trying. One time I was telling my sister like I was trying to save something for her, and I was trying to
floppy disk.
Yeah, I said floppy disk. I was trying to say like the
USB
flash drive. Yeah. I was like, put it on the floppy disk. Like, what's that? She's like, what? Like, we had. Do you remember beepers? Like my dad had one. That's how you received
that was a little
messages. You burn CDs. That was fun. Were you generation burn CDs?
Yeah,
we burned
definitely.
CDs. It's sad because there is I think that humans in general need to have a connection with nature. And even though it was like on the gravel, but we were around trees and green, like it actually does, like we have to experience, our eyes have to see a certain spectrum of colors and stuff like that in nature to like even ease us mentally. You know what I mean? And we don't get access to that. So I wonder like also how much of that could be contributing, like being such indoor babies, to like things like depression and anxiety. Yeah. Ooh. Because you're not even seeing like there's like color therapy where like you look at certain colors in nature and it alleviates certain stress.
I've heard of this, but I didn't even know what it was.
I think it's color therapy. I think that's what it's called. I might be wrong. I have to double check. But green ignites a certain like emotion. It creates.
And they just show you colors and you feel better.
I think but it's also like being out in it, like seeing trees or like being next to water also has an effect on your mental. Like that's why sometimes a lot of like mental health retreats will be near somewhere coastal. They're not throwing them in the desert.
I don't know if I believe in that.
Yeah.
In like going out and like getting a break from society, getting a break from technology.
Air, oxygen.
But I almost like when I hear things like that, I always think like this is some hippie stuff.
But why?
Because I'd rather go into.
We can do it balanced.
I'd rather go to like a cabin or go to the beach or somewhere where I'm going to be isolated and do it.
Yeah.
But when I hear like I have to. Like
I can't let anyone see that I'm earthing.
No,
like you can't know.
When I
Would
see
you do
like,
nothing?
like a trip like Costa Rica, like wellness trip, I'm like, I don't know if this is that.
I don't feel well about it.
Like I don't. I think I'd be better like me just going by myself instead of like me going to a place that's.
So that brings me back to people do that for community. You heal in a community too sometimes. And some people don't have access to that. So they go on these wellness retreat where like people are like, they're trying to come up with a solution together and they're going through something similar so they understand each other. And it builds friendship and community. Most of the time people do these so that they can leave with like having built like meaningful friendships and meaningful connections. Because like even for like in our community, like we do like Muslim retreats and stuff, like they do stuff like that, and it's like the basis of it is that like it's consecrated in the idea that we're here for like spirituality, and you know what I mean, and that does something. I think friendships that are cultivated for like a higher power, greater meaning, whatever it may be, like brings you together in a closer way. Because sometimes I'll in circles of spirituality, for me, like I'm like in crowds where like if it wasn't for this thing bringing us together, we probably would not be like we're such different people, you know what I mean? So there's something about like a collective consciousness, collective practice,
yeah.
that brings people together in a such a transcending way. It's like it's beyond, it goes beyond like the vanity of things. It literally, it's transcendence, and it's something deep, and it's usually very deep friendships that end up, you know, feeling fulfilled and lasting, because I think we do heal as a community. I think, you know, you have to do some self-work, but it's important to have a we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, like, I love this conversation. 'Cause even like, it brings a lot of hope to like the narrative of like of the world right now. Even I feel like we have such a gloomy, such a negative worldview right now.
We're isolated. Everyone doesn't even like interacting, like being socially awkward is now the norm.
How?
That's as social creatures, that's not our nature, to be honest. We are like we are herds, like we're, you know,
like, and I do it. I myself do it, like, but it's like I don't get why like you're standing in line and like everyone's on the phone, and not even because you're doing anything, just because you don't want to talk to the person next to you. And like when like I try to go out of my way and like, you know, I'm here, hey, how you doing, how's your day going, blah blah, like, but it's like it's sad that it's becoming that's become the norm.
Yeah.
Not interacting, not like, it's literally awkward.
You see like memes, and I think I think this is a symptom of a bigger problem where like people are like it's like TikToks and memes about when canceled plans, and they're like Cabbage Patch, like, and it's like, dang, like you don't enjoy companionship, people, like how are you gonna build community? How are we gonna do all that if like
you're just at home every day?
Or maybe because our interactions have become more vain. I mean, and that could be also a contributor, because there's maybe culturally what was pushed on us is that, you know, gatherings consist of, you know, partying or drinking, or like, which could be a good time for people, but it's like there's nothing that you leave feeling empty. You don't leave feeling full, if that makes sense. Like you brought up the whole like a good conversation is art, because you leave with something, you feel something. And I don't know, maybe we're also intellectually failing as a society, that we don't know how to like gather for things, for depth and meaning.
People aren't genuine anymore. Like people don't really say what they think. People are too
political
worried.
Correctness.
Exactly. They're worried about their image. They don't want to appear weak. They don't want to expose things like.
We are so consumed with our ego and so scared of vulnerability. And there's a way to execute vulnerability. It doesn't always have to be like, because I feel like we also will go into extremes. Like you don't have to expose yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But you should be able to interact with people in a way that you know, let down your ego in a way to allow for a door
growth,
to, yeah,
and for
but we don't have
connection.
To be on social media crying and stuff. Like people are not
agree.
People won't care about people who don't know you are not going to care. Like, you know what I mean? They might for 2 seconds, but then they're going to continue scrolling. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, building those communities so that you don't have to expose yourself to have to deal with also people who won't care about you and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think we're so also caught up. We're like egomaniacs and then overtly politically correct, where you can't talk because you don't know what's going to offend someone. So here's the thing. I think it's also another symptom of it is lack of manners, because I don't, if I say something opposing that I could have a different opinion, how I present it will determine how you receive it. In a sense, where like if I tell you like, nah, that's stupid, versus I tell you like, okay,
I don't necessarily see it that way.
really, if I call it something,
No. You could say I don't necessarily see it that way.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to
Opposed to
say.
being
Oh, I
like,
thought you were
no,
trying to
you're
respond.
wrong.
Yeah, you know, like inflammatory language, etiquette, just knowing how to speak to people. Like, why did we forget how to do that? In a sense where like, even if you're having an opposing opinion, you can still humanize the person in front of you. For like, how should I say this? I think sometimes by having you having a different opinion, people subconsciously dehumanize each other based off that. Whereas if you allow for proper dialogue with manner and etiquette, even if you don't agree with that person, the fact that you engage with them, you had a talk with them, you broke bread with them, whatever it is, you drink tea with them, and even if you came to the point of like, I agree to disagree, at the end of the day, like you've humanized them, you've humanized their opinion. They're no longer, it's us versus them. It's no longer that where even if you don't agree with it, if someone were to bring it up, you know, you could be like, yeah, I don't agree with it, but like you understand, like you could break it down from their perspective. And then that understanding people's perspective and knowing how to come with proper etiquette, you receive that kind of knowledge where like even if you don't agree with it, you understand. You understand, and they're no longer this object of fear in your head because you don't know. Now
Correct.
you know, and then when you know, things become less scary, and then we keep it moving. And there's no longer like you don't have to protect. Like our brains will naturally try to protect us by anything that is other is scary. So you might subconsciously dehumanize their opinion, dehumanize their existence just because you don't know it. But when you sit and talk to them, you realize like maybe I might not still agree with this, but I've at least like engaged with you on a human level and with respect, and I understand where you're coming from now, and we keep it moving.
Doesn't that kind of bring the question of like maybe changing the approach of education? Because like we've already spoken, like people don't know how to communicate right now. They lack manners. They're awkward.
Yeah.
Like and I don't mean in a like communicate in a political correctness way, but like just in a way of like treating people as humans.
Humanizing them.
Literally, because everybody sees somebody else as like, oh.
But social media, I think, did that to us because we're no longer engaging with people in the physical realm. We're engaging with them in the digital realm, and it's much easier to get buck behind it. Behind us, you're so much stronger and bolder in person. You're like, hey.
Yeah.
Like, no, like you know, it's a different conversation when you're like you feel people's energy. Like there's an exchange of energy right now, just in conversation. Like even like in our brains and everything is different behind a screen. I think that it takes away from that the physical human experience and the energetic exchange that comes when you're talking to people like face to face versus behind a keyboard. So I think we've become more bold and more unapologetic because we feel stronger behind a screen.
Such a trippy world.
It's so trippy.
That like there's all these things and like.
And you feel like you're in it, like it's like a hamster's wheel because you're just like, but what can we do? You're just like chasing your own tail type thing.
But when you look at it, like, it's not necessarily things that you have to solve.
Yeah, that's also a thing. Like, it's. I think the I. It goes again. The we is a byproduct of the I. The I is a byproduct of the we.
Because like
awareness. Sometimes it's just awareness, knowledge, education.
Even at the end of the day,
not
like
that you have to take action.
Let's say you go through life, you have all these experiences. The end of life comes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, was the purpose of life to solve that problem? Not necessarily. Like, what is solving that problem doesn't make your life now. Now your life is good. Because there's going to be another problem that comes up. And it's just a constant.
I think some people everyone has a purpose in their own way and form. And some people have the toolbox and the threshold to take on certain things. And if you don't have the toolbox and the threshold, it's not for you. Take on the things that you were fashioned to do. You know what I mean? Like everyone's brain was wired differently, and certain people are better at doing certain things. And I think it's like going back to just playing your role. Like you have your own special gift and special talents. Some people are meant to be more analytical, and they're meant to be just like, their brains have to work in a binary because they were meant to solve like equations like string theory, you know what I mean? Whereas other people were meant to create cultural traditions through arts and music, you know what I mean, and expression. And that person, you have a role. You need to figure out string theory, you know what I mean? You don't have to necessarily enter this realm, and but you can appreciate it.
Yeah.
You can appreciate. We're not all meant to function in the same modality, and I think everyone's wired serves a purpose. You just need to like expand on that and not try to like, it's like trying to fit a square into a circle. Like you don't have to be that. You can be you and then expand on that, and that is your purpose.
What do you think you are?
Oh, what am I?
That's hard.
That's really hard. I don't know, to be honest. I really don't. I mean, what is my thing? I really don't know, but I'm very comfortable talking to people and engaging people. So maybe there's something in there that like I can benefit people on a micro level. I don't ever really care to be on like a pulpit and on a macro level. Like I don't want to ever do that, but I think for me maybe it's like just being able to engage, love, and influence people with that. Share around me. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm an older sister. Like that's a role. That's a big.
Absolutely.
An important role. And maybe inshallah one day, I'll be a mother. And so I think that I am what the people around me perceive me in their life. That's what I serve.
That's a beautiful answer.
Yeah, because I don't know. I could say like, I'm going to be this. No.
Yeah.
In being me, I cultivate my purpose. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And the people around me, I play a certain role in every single one of their lives in a certain way. So what I am to them is what my purpose is.
It's kind of funny. Like that's even what this is. Like the whole idea behind this. It's like in reality, like I just thought like, hey, like these conversations might be useful to somebody.
So and somewhere down the line, it might not happen instantaneously.
Exactly. Like, and it might be, I don't know. It's not in the trying to be something like, but it's like maybe this becomes useful. Maybe like.
And you try because you have the capacity for it.
Exactly.
Some people don't have the capacity, and that's your tool. Like you can do it.
Well, I don't feel like I'm fully there yet.
I think you are. I think you are.
I think it's a ongoing process.
It's just building, but you have the toolbox.
You know what it is?
You have.
You know what it is? It's the adjusting to being recorded and the adjusting to
I know.
cameras.
I'm trying to forget there's a camera.
No, but it's like because in person, like I'm perfectly fine.
Same.
I can talk to anybody, and I love conversing. I love talking to people with different opinions, different backgrounds, everything. Yeah. It's the adjusting to the like, okay, now this is going to be. There's
some formality in it, which takes away sometimes from it can take away from its juice, or it's like its sparkle.
It does a little. No, actually, in my opinion, a lot, in the sense of like, because when I'm naturally speaking, I'm rambling, I'm exploring, I'm going down different tangents where it's like, now it's like, I have to think, okay, I need this, I need that.
It's structured. And sometimes art does not need structure. That's the thing. That's the thing that takes away its sparkle, because there's certain things in life and certain disciplines in life that require structures. Art is not one of them. It's free flowing. It's arbitrary. It's chaos. It's organized chaos.
Yes, but even like, let's say in a video or in the podcast, if there's no structure,
it's whack.
Exactly. Yeah, it's too much. So it's like, that's what I mean by like the learning, the ongoing process of like adjusting to this. Yeah. And getting used to this, because I'm sure in a year I'll be a lot more comfortable, and it'll be a lot easier to.
I mean, I think you're killing it. We're on episode 3. We're doing great. Yes, let's go. I think this is headed in such a good trajectory, and I think it's also because intention plays a lot in how things are executed. I think you were very intentional with it, and you tied your camel. So now you just you just keep going with it, you know, and you see what the fruits of it. And I do believe everything with intention yields, it yields its purpose, because it will benefit someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
even if it's just myself.
Yeah, yourself. Like art is
getting
also for yourself first and foremost.
fully, like literally, even if it's just getting to go back and look at this and see where I was at.
It'll be a
point in
time
life.
capsule for you.
Fully.
Like
That's a big part of this as well. Like, because I'm not expecting anybody to necessarily be looking at this or like be interested in my life or my conversations, but I think it might be interesting. Even
but
if
maybe
it's for
they
my
will,
family.
so it'll be fun.
Absolutely. Like at some
risk.
point I'll have kids and whatnot,
Yeah.
and hopefully,
Yeah,
and they'll look back at this and like, what was I thinking at 24? And they could be looking at this at 24 as well, being like, wow, I was thinking very differently, or I'm thinking the exact same thing. Who knows?
You know, that's very interesting. That makes me think of like how we're going to analyze history in the future, because now we have like, so we used relics and paintings to look at, to determine what the psyche of people were at that time.
But now
we have podcasts. You're going to hear someone literally telling you what
exactly
so that's
what they
gonna be
thought. I
interesting.
mean, that's kind of the idea behind this.
Yeah.
Which is
like, this is how people used to think in the early, 2000s.
I mean, isn't that trippy to think like possibly
this is going to be an artifact.
No, literally, even if it's just passed down within the family. Yeah. But it's like, could you imagine like your grandkids?
It's the photo album.
Literally.
Yeah.
It is the photo album.
That's crazy.
It is. Well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Oh, this was so much fun.
Noor, I've loved this conversation.
Same. I've had a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah. I can't wait to see where this is going to be in a year. Episode 3.
And for sure, we'll have you on at another point.
For sure. I'm always here.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye.